Anke, welcome to the podcast Tomorrow's Bites. We had many food businesses before, but now we have an app that actually makes the consumer also aware of what they actually buy in the supermarket. But before I dive into that, how did you came to this idea?
One day I learned that half of the Dutch citizens have one or more chronic disease. So half of the Dutch citizens are sick. And that's not only in the Netherlands, I think that's actually in the whole Western society. So I thought that was really a lot. But what I was even more surprised about was that so much can actually be prevented by a better lifestyle, from which I think food has a really big impact. So, and I was wondering, why, if we know that, why is it then still so easy to make unhealthy choices? I think on every corner in the city is like a snack bar, and the supermarket is full of ultra processed foods. More than 70% of the products in the supermarket are ultra processed. And I was like, yeah, why is that if we know that it's causing diseases actually? So I really dived into that problem and that thing. And yeah, I realized I wanted to do something about it. So that's we came up with an app that first of all informs people how ultra processed products in the supermarkets are, but hopefully eventually will motivate producers as well to make less ultra processed products.
Interesting you're mentioning. Like many people would listen to these facts, to this data that you're mentioning, and everybody would agree this sounds bad. No, it's bad that half of the citizens have a chronic disease and you can prevent it. What is very striking to me is that among all these people that probably read that, you decided to take that action. You decided to say, why there's not an app for this? I'm wondering when was the first time that you really started thinking, oh, I am the person who's capable of coming up with a solution?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand your question. So, yeah, maybe a little bit more about my background, but I have a background in data and technology and marketing. So I've worked actually in London for quite a while and really enjoyed that. But then when I came back to the Netherlands, I set up a company with three others around data and privacy. So a very different topic. But there I learned everything or a lot about entrepreneurship. And that went really well because timing wise, we were really good because we were a year before the GDPR went live and we did something with privacy. So we sold that company after 2 years. And then after kind of working for that company that sold us for a while, I was really in the position to think, okay, what is going to be my next step? And I had experience in entrepreneurship. I had experience in technology and data. And I had this new passion around healthy food. So basically, I combined that three things and thought, yeah, I'm just gonna try it. Uh, yeah, and now we are 3 years further. So it took a little bit longer to really get that product market fit than I initially thought. But yeah, I'm really happy. I
What
continue
made
it and
it
it's live now.
that it took so long?
Well, at the beginning when I started, I really had the problem in my head, and I was like, okay. First, I actually thought, okay, there needs to be a healthier supermarket. So a supermarket with just healthy products, and maybe also a little bit of like an educational role, where you also explain like a bit like the benefits of all the good food that is actually out there. But yeah, I also realized quite quickly that that was super ambitious to just start a new supermarket, although some other people are doing it. But yeah, I kind of iterated on that idea, and then I decided to create an app. But at the beginning, I had a co-founder and I outsourced the app to like a technical company. So we didn't build it in house. And it was also an app in which we wanted to do everything. So we wanted to educate about food, so explain like what is good about iron and in which kind of food you could find iron. You could make shopping lists. We had recipes. So there was a lot of things, and I realized at one moment that that was too much and also too expensive to keep outsourcing it. And so I took a step back. We decided to find a new co-founder, which we have now, which is Laurens, who is the CTO and who is now building the app, which is really fantastic. And we decided to really focus on products specifically. So we now only focus on products and giving information about the products in the supermarkets. And that is very simple and focused. And with that, we can grow further.
I understand correctly, you are 3 co-founders right now.
So no, in the end, we are 2 now because the first co-founder stopped because of personal reasons, and then I continued with Laurens.
It's because how do you build the team from the beginning? Not like you say, I have this idea and I wanted to make it happen. You need to make sure that you have like complementing skills. Like what were the kind of people or the kind of co-founder you were aiming in that moment?
Yeah, well, it is really important indeed that that person is complementing and has skills that you don't have. And with Laurens, that's definitely the case. He's not a developer, but he is very analytical and very technical, and he can learn everything. So he's building everything. But also, so apart from that additional skills, it's also very important that you both have the passion, I think, for the problem. Because only if you both have the passion, then you can continue with it also in harder times. And that's what I found exactly in Laurens. So yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Like, did you challenge each other before stepping in the sense of like with thought, like questions of like, okay, how do you see yourself into the business? Like, especially when things go wrong, you will get to know your co-founder.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I know yeah. So it's like, how did you build that relationship with Laurens, or was it already there?
Yeah. No, so that is indeed very important that you challenge each other, and I also think Laurens is very good at that. That's not a problem. But we didn't know each other before we became co-founders, so we got to know each other through our network, and of course we had conversations in which we challenged each other and in which we talked. But I also have to say it was quite natural, and quite quickly there was a click, and then we decided to go for it. It was also not a process that took like for ages, because I also eventually believe that like your gut feeling says a lot actually about someone, and that felt good, and it's still good. So yeah, I'm happy about it.
You touch a very important lesson that I think many entrepreneurs get the hard way. I mean, like making mistakes. That is you were trying to be too much in one single product. No, that happens apparently a lot. And when you were saying, okay, we need to be less than what we are trying to aim, or we need to start with less and maybe in the future grow to all these other things that we want to do. How did you take the decision on what was the thing that you needed to focus on?
Oh, that's a very good question. I mean, I realized at some moment, and that was also before Laurens was in, that we were doing too much, and also that the outsourcing was not working, because every time when we wanted to make changes, it was costing a lot of money. And then I think maybe the moment was when we saw like one of our competitors or inspirations was actually really successful in France. There's another app that's called Yuka, and they started in France, and they do something very similar. So they also have a health score that works a little bit different than our score, but they have a health score, they have an app, and people can scan products in the supermarket to check how healthy it is. And they are super successful because 1 in 3 adults in France is using that app. And we knew about it, and in the beginning we were thinking, okay, no, we want to do something else. But then at some point I was actually like, no, I think it's better if we also focus, and we see it is successful in France as well, and they were also live in other countries, but not in the Netherlands. We didn't have anything similar in the Netherlands, so then we were like, we're going to build a product scanner based on ultra processed food in the Netherlands.
Yeah, before I want to dive into like how this formula works and stuff, there's this part of like, okay, you have an app, but what is the business model behind this app?
Yeah. So the scanning functionality is for free, and we want to keep that for free because we believe everybody has the right to understand how healthy products are and what they put in their mouth. We also believe that's very important for our visibility and to get filtered known. But our business model that we're focusing on today is B2C premium. So people can also have a premium subscription in the app, and then they have access to more than 100 recipes and personalized filters. So then they can also filter or check for the products if it's gluten-free and dairy-free at the moment. But we will be building that filters out in the future as well.
So that's like filters on allergens, or like
yeah, that will be added. Yeah, allergens and allergies, but also for example, iron-rich food or food high in omega-3, like all food facts, also positive food facts actually. People will in the future be easily be able to find that. But that will be available through the premium version.
When you start building this app, you need to build like this huge database of products. How do you approach that? You just start going to the supermarket and take pictures of every product and every label? How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, that is Lauren's magical work. But no, yeah, we are gathering that data from different online sources. And yeah, Laurens is structuring that in a way that it fits in our database and that the algorithm can read the data. And we do that supermarket by supermarket. So we started with Albert Heijn, and then we added Jumbo, and we're now busy with adding more supermarkets.
Just like curious, do you not have like partnership agreement, for instance, with one supermarket, or like partnership agreements with brands? These type of things are not added to the business model.
No, at the moment not. So because that data we do get ourselves. However, there are now supermarkets actually reaching out to us and saying, hey, we also want our products in your app. And of course, if they can deliver the data quicker to us than that we can gather it, we are open for that. But the business model is very much focused on B2C. But we're also currently looking at licensing our score. So I think at the core of everything we do is that scoring system that we spend a lot of time and energy on. And people are literally asking, like, I actually want to see the score also in the online environment where I do my shopping. So if you do shopping through an app, for example, that you can also see the pure score in there. So we're currently talking to supermarkets to license that to them.
Instead of the Nutri-Score then, I suppose.
Yeah, or additional to the Nutri-Score. So for people who want to use the Nutri-Score, they can use the Nutri-Score, and then you can actually even use the pure score on top of it because it says something about processing and a Nutri-Score doesn't. But yeah, there are also people who say, oh, I love the pure score, it's much better than a Nutri-Score. Yeah, so people can make their own choice in that.
How are you working to make this arrive to people? How is then also your marketing strategy when it comes to make people be aware of the filter experience, or how has been your strategy in order to get like first leads and customers?
We were officially launched in February this year. That was when the Pure Score was validated by the University of Applied Sciences here in Amsterdam. And we sent out a press release around that, and that helped. So there was a big article in the Parool. And yeah, at that time, actually, we got a lot of downloads. So we do a lot with free publicity, but we also are believing very much in, first of all, product-led growth. So we are building actually the product in such a way that it's very easy to share. And also people really like the app. It's simple, so that it makes it very shareable with other people. So the word of mouth is really strong. But also partners like dietitians, but also GPs are actually reaching out to us and say, hey, I want to have more information for in my waiting room. So there are a lot of kind of professionals who can recommend the app, and free publicity, as I said. And then we also do some own content, like on our social channels. But that's actually all non-paid media that we're currently doing. And we also believe we can do a lot more with that. And again, our inspiration, Yuka, is also very much focused on organic growth. So they got a lot of users just with organic growth.
Yeah, so you make use of ambassadors as kind of, like nutritionists are kind of ambassadors for the app.
Yeah.
And then the shareable part is quite interesting, but how do you make like an app very shareable?
Now, for example, so I think the more simple a product is, easier to use, and the more you like it, and then you want to share it. But then also, like the products, for example, if you scan a product, there's like a share button in the app that people can share it with their friends or the person that's maybe going to do the shopping for them. The same with recipes. So that type of features can help to make it
So it's also a product level, like individual.
Yeah.
So I see.
Yeah.
When you think of on your target customer, you just say like anybody who can make groceries, or do you have something in mind of the kind of persona that you're trying to approach with it?
Yeah, good question. And also one that we thought a lot about and have talked a lot about, because everybody always says you need to find a niche. But I think our niche is actually that we're focused on that ultra processed foods. So we're very unique in that sense that we have created a score around that. That is our USP. And yeah, we want to share it with everyone who wants to eat less processed foods. And that can be all types of people. We do see that a lot of women, and then between, I don't know, 25 and 50, are very interested in it. But we don't only focus on them. Like it's relevant for a really, really big group. And I think our niche is more like the focus on the ultra processed foods.
Still, it must be important to know for when you do, for example, content, no? Because when you do your content in social media, you must thinking, okay, this is the people who are normally reacting to it, or they're gonna use it. Otherwise, if you're approaching to a group that maybe is not as represented in social media, maybe it will just scroll up, no? Like it will go like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so on social media, so on Instagram, for example, we focus very much on the group that I was just mentioning, so on women between 25 and 50. But yeah, another group is maybe patients of GPs or clients of coaches, and that's a much more diverse group. So it depends a little bit on the channels we're using, and we can easily adjust our communication materials around it as well. But our main focus is the group woman between 25 and 50. And in terms of our branding, we find it very important that we have a positive look, no? So that we are colorful and positive. We also don't want to only point fingers and be negative about everything. We really want people to enjoy the brand and to talk about the positive aspects of food and really offer solutions.
Only the 0 score is negative.
Yes, yeah, and there are a lot of products that score red. So yeah, that is
Yeah, that's
negative.
correct.
But then we offer alternatives, so that people can do something with it.
And let's talk about the formula. Like how do you how you have established this formula?
Yeah, formula.
Because there's a formula behind it, right? In the end, you do a 0 to 100 score, but there's a formula to get a score.
Yeah. There we have created like a methodology. So we basically have talked for a very long time to a lot of different food experts. So that were food scientists, but also coaches and dietists, food technologists. And yeah, based on that, we actually created a methodology. So, and what we really tried to find out in there was like, okay, what is it in ultra processed food that makes it bad for your health? What do these professionals see as ultra processed foods? You know, is it like because some people say if it has more than 5 ingredients, it's ultra processed, or if it has additives, it's ultra processed. But it's not that simple. It's really a combination of a lot of factors. So based on all that conversations and input, we defined 3 mechanisms actually that make ultra processed foods bad for your health. And that is, first of all, that some forms of processing remove the original nutrients of the food. So for example, the fibers or vitamins get out of the food. The second thing is that some forms of processing add harmful additives to the food. So that can be sugars or salt or certain type of additives. And then the third one is that ultra processed foods often leads to overconsumption. So it's really made in such a way that you want to eat more of it. And that 3 mechanisms are at the core of everything in our methodology. And then we looked at all the different processing techniques that are out there. And then together with the University of Applied Sciences here in Amsterdam, we reviewed that processing techniques and looked, okay, to what extent does this technique or can this technique have any influence on one of that 3 mechanisms? So for example, pressing an orange. Pressing is a processing technique. Well, in that case, you remove fibers and maybe some good nutrients. So that has an influence on the first mechanism. But for example, putting something in a can is also a processing technique, but that doesn't necessarily have any have an effect of one of that mechanisms. So that's how we looked at all of the techniques. Then we also looked at all the ingredients and type of ingredients that are in food and did the same thing. Yeah, to what extent, how processed are actually these ingredients, and to what extent does it have an influence on one of the mechanisms? And yeah, based on that, we have a whole database with more than 5,000 ingredients, and that we have all individually scored. And that in comparison with, or in combination with the processing techniques, and if something is organic or not, eventually comes to one pure score.
Wow. Okay. So, for instance, take aspartame. no, like as an ingredient. It's
Yeah.
quite debatable. Like one said, like you have the WHO is saying, no, yeah, it's risky, and then there's still in the industry the question, well, yeah, is it?
Yeah.
How do you decide then? Like, what do you follow in this
Yeah.
particular field, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that is very difficult, I also have to admit. And I think it's also never like 100% set in stone. But yeah, when we look at additives, we look at if it has an influence on one of the mechanisms. So I think in general, like the more additives a product contains, it is a bit of a sign of that it's more processed. But yeah, if you add something like to a tin of tomatoes, then it scores very green in our case because that's not ultra processed. But yeah, in the case of aspartame, you try to make something more sweet, and that stimulates overconsumption. So in that case, it does get minus points in our case.
Yeah. Okay. So because of the not necessarily, it's also the function and then the actual outcome, what you want to reach with it. And how far that I now understand.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we look at it. Because in theory, like all e-numbers have been approved, right? So they are okay. So indeed, you cannot say very easy, like, okay, this is really bad for your health. But yeah, there are exceptions. Like there are also cases where e-numbers have been approved and then later have been taken off the market again because there was actually scientific research that was linking it to diseases. So the fact that it is approved doesn't mean that it cannot have an effect on your health. But we are very careful with that. So we really look at the mechanisms.
I believe one of the biggest debates around the link between ultra processed food means bad for health that I've seen is the whole plant based movement. There is like a lot of discussion because many of the so-called plant-based alternatives are by definition of the nova definition ultra processed foods, but many people within that aspect or be vegan activists, etc., they defend that even though they are ultra processed, they cannot be compared to other kind of ultra processed because they have other nutrients, etc., etc. In that sense, how do you tackle then that link between making red is more ultra processed, therefore means that is worse for you, with the idea that maybe there can be ultra processed products that maybe are not?
Yeah, so I know the issue you're talking about, and I know kind of the whole discussion around ultra processed food is often clashing with the transition to more plant based. But for me, that's not a reason not to talk about ultra processed foods again. And also a reason why the Pure Score that we have developed is so important, because the NOVA classification that you were referring to, that is very important, I think. And I think Carlos Montero, who kind of came up with the NOVA classification, he put really ultra processed food on the agenda. So we really have taken that NOVA classification as a basis. But there's a lot of nuance missing in there. So indeed, there's a lot of products that fall into classification 4, ultra processed, but there's a lot of difference, right? What you were saying. So meat alternatives are not the same as maybe a bag of sweets. So yeah, and that's what you will see also in our scoring system, right? So the bag of sweets will score a lot lower than the meat alternatives. But very important, one meat alternative is not the same as the other. And yeah, that's where the app comes in really handy, because you scan a meat alternative and then you might see that it's ultra processed, because there are a lot that are ultra processed and I would not necessarily recommend. But there are also a lot of them that contain a lot less salt or other less good ingredients that are fine to eat. So I think that nuance is really important, and I think it's also important to motivate producers to maybe make the meat alternatives, but try to do that in a as natural way as possible.
Yeah, that there I also have a question about, but there's no another thing. Do you also look at the level of processing of the ingredient?
Yeah.
So basically, I would say, how do you look at then, for instance, fermentation, like ingredients out of fermentation, ingredients out of precision fermentation is different, but that will also come.
Yeah, so there, in theory, the fermentation is a processing technique that doesn't have a negative effect on your health. It actually often has positive effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't get minus points in our case. So if there are fermented ingredients, then it doesn't get minus points and it's good. We don't give plus points to it because that's not how our system works. But in the future, like I talked about the filters before, but in the future there will be filters, for example, like fermented products or gut-friendly filter. We don't know exactly how it's going to be called, but where people can then find like a positive attributes of the food.
And also then, for instance, if I put on the fermentation part, we have probiotics. I put probiotics into a product. I pasteurize it afterwards and I put it on the shelf. What score does it get? Does it get minus, or is it still going to be like the same as I had it before? Because in the end, the probiotics are dead, potentially. That is the whole thing with the kimchi. It was like lately on the TV.
Okay, yeah.
How are you going to take this into account?
Yeah.
Or are you taking this into account?
Yeah, so we don't like the probiotics, for example, doesn't get any plus or minus points in our case.
Okay.
Right? Because we don't give plus points, but it's also not minus points because it's not bad for your health. But then what we're also like, what is very important, we look at processing techniques as good as we can, but we are dependent on the information that's on the packaging. So we make an as good estimation as possible based on the category actually the food is in. So we don't know everything that happened, and we can't. So we try to make an as good estimation as possible there. So I know there are a lot of things about food that you can go much deeper, and actually you should look at the whole processing or the whole system behind it. But yeah, when it's not visible on the packaging, it's very easy for us to look at that. So we focus very much on the ingredients and what we can read from the packaging, and we believe with that we can already make a lot of good steps and a lot of improvements for a lot of consumers.
Two products that are processed the same, but one of them is, for example, supplemented in iron, and the other not, would score the same point?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really focused on the way it was processed to have the final product.
Yeah.
The whole scoring.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that sense, what comes with many of these labels, scores, etc., that tends to be a problem with them is the food literacy of the consumer. Not like someone can go. This been always been my major concern with Nutri-Score in particular. That is, someone can go read an A, but we have no clue of what A means. We don't know if A means I can eat it every day, or I shall eat it every day, or it means that it's just good for me, or it doesn't have anything bad. So it's this lack of idea and capability to interpret the data, what in my opinion sometimes can be complicated with the scores.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned before about educating consumer. Is that anything in some way that you try to explain to the consumer, like how
how you should interpret the scoring? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I mean, one thing about the Nutri-Score, it is indeed very confusing for a lot of people, we have learned. And I think unhealthy products can get a green score because maybe they are the better option in a certain category, and healthy products can get a bad score, and that's not fair. And I think, and then I know, and people maybe also know, like you need to compare within a category, but then what is exactly the category that you are comparing in? If a salmon gets a red D, is it because it's compared with another type of salmon or with another type of fish, or you don't know what is in that category? And what I also don't like about the Nutri-Score is that it looks at certain positive nutrients and certain negative nutrients, but not all of them. So it looks at fibers and it looks at protein, but it doesn't look at omega-3, it doesn't look at iron. So there are a lot of kind of very important minerals and vitamins and healthy fats that it doesn't look at. And yeah, I think, and I also understand that's really difficult to score, but it doesn't give a very complete picture. And I think we are very much focused on the processing, but in general, the less processed a product is, the more of its original nutrients it still contains, so the healthier it is. So that's in general. And then, but it doesn't mean that everything that scores green in our app, that you can eat it as much, that you should eat it the whole day. Because still the variation is very important. And like how much you eat of all the macronutrients, for example. So yeah, we are actually currently creating like a bit of education material around that. but we want to keep that very general, because what is healthy for who is also super personal. So yeah, I think there are a lot of institutions that give like a lot of advice already, and we are just like, for everyone who wants to eat less processed, that's where the tool really helps.
What is the biggest challenge with this methodology or like formula
The biggest challenge
to establish this? You know, like because in the end you're making a choice for a consumer better, easier. However, there's also like nuances to certain things, and you know there's still things unclear as well. For instance, now I was thinking, you have fresh food, you have frozen food. There's also this shown research that frozen fruits have probably higher nutrients than the fresh fruit that you have in the supermarket.
yeah yeah Yeah, and so it is really not black and white, and there's so many opinions about food. So yes, it is a difficult thing, and there's not one score that is the perfect score for everything. But I do believe the level of processing says a lot. But then if you compare fresh vegetables with frozen vegetables, in our case, that actually scores the same. So we don't give negative points to freezing, because it often means actually maybe that there are even more nutrients still in there, because it was directly frozen. Yeah, but it doesn't have a negative effect on that. So we don't give it minus points.
Oh, we studied that pluses. It would keep the nutrients.
Yeah, and actually for things in season, for example, it keeps it's better
Yeah.
to have things that were in season frozen than something that is fresh but not in season, in theory. When it comes to the methodology, I understand that one of the main challenges has to be like keeping up to date with research, because obviously, for example, you measure like the impact of a certain process. Let's put fermentation as if all of a sudden it's discovered that fermentation can reduce the amount of a certain nutrient in I don't know, in kimchi, no, as it was put. That directly needs to have an impact on your way of scoring all the kimchi products. Like, okay, now we need to do some adjustment because now this has this loss of this vitamin or whatever, etc.
Yeah.
How do you keep up with all the publication? How do you know that when is a good moment to take the decision?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, and also very important, and also a big part of what we do. So we do keep an eye on all the new research that's coming out. But yeah, it's not like when there's one research we immediately kind of adjust the score, and because that's also not really how science works, I think. But like we're currently building like a scientific board with some food scientists in there from different universities. And then once a month, we actually want to kind of officially have a meeting in which we propose changes to the scoring system. And then we discuss it with them. And then we decide what we do to kind of update it and what needs to be investigated further. But you're right, it's not something that's like, I think the methodology, the basis is there, but it's something that constantly needs to be updated, also because like kind of new ingredients will be added to products, or producers will give different names on it. So that's something that we constantly need to keep up to date. So we flag kind of when there are new ingredients, and then we start scoring them again.
The scanner is making pictures of products, or is it scanning a barcode?
Scanning a barcode at the moment.
How does it work then for products without barcodes? Like there cannot be. I understand that those normally are the one who will score the highest, because we're talking here about fruits and vegetables, and sometimes bread.
Yeah.
But how does it work? Well, bread can be considered quite processed, depending on the one that you choose.
Depends,
I guess.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So it depends. The bread depends, and that's why I think the app is so nice, because it shows that some types of breads are like quite ultra processed, like the white breads, for example. But there's also a lot of whole grain bread that scores green in our app. But so I think actually a lot of products do have barcodes. So even the cauliflower you can scan in the supermarket because it has like a barcode on the shelf. But I think cauliflower is not a product that needs to be scanned. But most products are scannable, and I think also for the products that have a barcode on the packaging are the ones that are most important to understand better how processed it is.
Precisely, the bakery area could be interesting, not only for the breads, but because you'll in an Alberheim you will also have all the snacks in there. No, those could be considered at least processed, and some of them heavily processed.
Yeah. No, but that's really interesting actually what you're saying, because like the sausage breads, for example, they don't have an ingredient list when you buy them in a bigger supermarket, but there is a barcode on the shelf. So if you scan it, we will recognize it. So then you actually do see an ingredient list and a score as well. So that's like a bit like an additional benefit, because otherwise you don't know the ingredients.
Yeah.
With fruits and vegetables, we have mentioned that actually they do not like they are not processed like that. But depending also on where they come from, they also have a loss on nutrients. Do you go that far, or do you say for a moment, let's put the stop here?
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right, and I think it would maybe be great to do something with that in the future. But we also believe we can make a lot more bigger steps with not going that far and actually explain more about the type of ingredients in products. And I know, because I know there are also a lot of people who don't even go to the supermarket and buy everything outside of the supermarket, because the quality of the stuff they buy out of the supermarket is much better. But we believe we can make the biggest impact of the main products in the supermarket.
Yeah, I can understand that as well. And it can definitely help consumers to become more aware of certain things, especially when there is also no given ingredient list and they just grab their snack from the bakery in one of the supermarkets. There is also a trend in the industry where, like a clean label is a trend. However, the ingredients that they have been using to put in the product, they will put it in the packaging. And these type of things then makes the product look, in the end, cleaner. However, we don't know anything about like the leakage of the package and preservatives, because it goes all around preservatives most of the time, right? Don't put the preservatives in the product, put them in the packaging. How is the, how's the app gonna, like, in the end you will face these challenges, because your app is also a pioneer, right? So brands, if businesses will indeed, which you already said, I hope that they make cleaner products. But they are also looking in ways like, okay, but how can I still keep my shelf like my product shelf stable for a longer period? Because that's also our business.
Yeah.
So how are you going to see this future, Anke? Like in your app, like how's it going to try to see beyond the ingredient list?
So first of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with producers making products that are going to be longer shelf stable or that are processed, but easy to make for people. So there's nothing wrong with processing. I think that is really important to note. It's just the type of processing. And again, if there's just one preservative added to keep it longer on the shelf, that's totally that's not the end of the world. But I think there are ways. And again, I am not a food technologist, but there must be ways kind of to do that in a way that you also take health into consideration. So by maybe you want to put some salt because it has a function, but maybe you can put some less salt. Or maybe you put sugar because you want to make it taste nice, but maybe it can be less as well. Or maybe you can, I don't know, but maybe you can use the processing techniques that don't necessarily have a negative effect on the health. And I think if producers are a bit more, how do you say that? A bit more rewarded for that. So also rewarded for making healthier products, making less processed products. I think that will be a very good development. And I don't know if your question was also meaning like, okay, they find ways to sneakily kind of do things to still processing, to still it, but you don't know, you can't see it.
No, it's not like sneaky. It's more like in the end, like they want to keep their product in a certain way, and they're gonna look into, okay, but then like they did that, for instance, with meat. You can put some gas in it for antioxidant, like basically in it that keeps the meat for a longer time fresh. That's why most of the meat in the supermarket is also packaged, because it can stay longer on the shelf. So these are ways that you can also work around certain things, but then it's all there is a bit of it's a difficult one, because in the end, then you will find out again, and that it has to do with research, if it will be eventually harmful for the human body or not.
Yeah.
And that takes time again.
So You said that you have a system of suggestions within the app. How does that work? Is suggestions within the same supermarket that you can have, and how much it bears? Like I don't know. Imagine I'm going buying some cookies. I all of a sudden discover that the cookies are terribly scored. Is going to recommend me an apple, or or what is going to recommend me?
Yeah, that would be great actually. Now, currently, it's all based on the pure score, right? So if you scan a product, it gives a score, and then the alternatives are products that are in the same category but have a higher score. That's the only thing it actually does. So it's as simple as that. So it must have the same or a higher score, and it must be in that category. And then the category is often the category that it is defined by the supermarket. And there we want to explore a little bit. Okay, sometimes we can get a little bit broader indeed. So I don't know if I have an example, but so maybe when you scan cookies, maybe you scan a chocolate cookie and then it recommends another chocolate cookie and from that category, right? But that scores then a little bit better. But yeah, we are also exploring like to maybe go a little bit broader and don't recommend a chocolate cookie, but like another type of cookie, a whole grain cookie, for example, that is then a better alternative.
When it comes to the numbers, is it very different something that scores 25 than something that scores 39? Is it virtually the same?
Well, yeah, 39 is higher than 25, so the 39 is better than the 25. And people need to make a bit their own decisions in there, right? We have colors as well, so everything above 70 scores green, and everything below 40, I believe, scores red, and everything in between orange. So yeah, people can look at the colors, but then also at the scoring specifically and make their own decisions.
Is it actually possible for the consumer in the end to see the formula? There's also the question with the Nutri-Score.
Mm-hmm.
People say like, can we see it? How is it doing make? How is it, build up basically?
Yeah, so when you scan a product, you see the score, then you can click on the product and then you get an explanation of why it gets that score. That is currently quite top level. So it says it has added sugars, it has added salts, or maybe a lot of additives. So quite top line, but people really like that. We will kind of deepen that a little bit. So people want to know, for example, what type of additives are in there, or so we can really give some additional information as well. But we really need to keep the balance between keeping it simple and easy to interpret it and giving more information, because sometimes you can give all information but then it's kind of too much for people and they don't know. They actually want something simple often, so it's finding the right balance in there.
Yeah, it could also be something for your premium accounts, like more in-depth information.
Yeah,
especially like processing and stuff. I'm also very curious, like where is it looking at, like all these levels, and also the additives deeper into that.
yeah.
And I think people can want to pay for that as well. Like people want to pay for more knowledge in the end as well. That's a big trend.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We all buy books.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it might be something for your premium, and it could even be another additional premium account, right? Like more for the nerdies. I don't know, the ones that want to know more about the high sports, like athletes. You get also other category of consumers in the end with that.
Yeah, no, true. It's a good tip.
We've been firing a lot of questions around the formula. We already knew that this was going to be something that we were going to be very interested in. And we're in the food industry. We want to keep doing some more questions regarding the business and how you're developing this. You mentioned Yuka. That is, you mentioned somewhere between inspiration and competition. How do you foresee the growth of Yuka or similar apps and the impact that it can have into the market for you in your growth?
Yeah, so we are currently very much focused on the Netherlands because there is an app like that needed here. And in here we don't have a lot of competition yet. There's only the app from the Fooding Center, but that is focused on the Wheel of Five and not on processing. So I think we're very unique. Our USP is quite clear. But then, and then we really see Yuka as an inspiration and validation. They are very big in France, but they also went to the US, and they're getting a lot of traction there as well. So I think they're very much focused on that country. So I believe there's.
So you go to the east of Europe.
Yeah, exactly. No, but there are a lot of other countries, I think, where that we can conquer after the Netherlands as well. And then again,
I was actually thinking, are you going to divide Belgium? Or,
Belgium, yeah. Flanders and Wallonia.
Are you gonna get the Dutch speaking part, and you guys gonna get the French speaking part?
Yeah, maybe that's a good. We actually do get a lot of requests actually from people from Belgium because the app is not available there yet because we don't have the products from the Belgian supermarkets. So we definitely want to get that Dutch part very soon. But yeah, I think there's enough space for a tool like this, and yeah, also our focus on the processing is quite unique, and also something I believe that will only grow. So it's not like a hype or something, ultra processed. It's something that people are becoming more and more aware of, that it is important, and that people are getting more conscious about it, and the nuance that it's bringing. So that it's not putting all kind of packaged products off the table, but that we also believe it's important to have products that are convenient and that makes it easier to prepare meals at home, for example. I think that can really help in the industry.
Yeah, I think that consumers is getting more knowledgeable and also interested in that thing. Curious actually how the numbers of keuringsdienst van waarde are over the years, because that might be interesting for you to look into, like how do people really want to know more of what actually happens with their food and where it comes from?
Yeah.
In the Netherlands, because you're focusing on the Netherlands and prominent like TV program here. The strategy is then mainly driven by like the actual individual, right? It's not like a B2B strategy that you would like to do for expansion. So working together with other retailers, or is it parallel?
Our focus is on B2C now, and also reaching as many people as possible first in the Netherlands. But if we can get partnerships with supermarkets where we can reach more consumers and where it's even easier for consumers to make less processed choices, we definitely do that parallel as well. Because it's not a new product or something, right? The product is the pure score. And if we can license that to supermarkets, yeah, then we can only reach more people quicker.
Might be that one of the challenges or even threats for you is your credibility, right? Because in the end, the moment where, for example, you do a partnership with a supermarket, and people can start saying, oh, of course, now if I go to X supermarket, all the products there are going to have higher scores than if I go to Y supermarket. How do you, I don't know, in my eyes, I see it like, that must be so stressful. Like, we have to have like this transparent, we need to be clean as water when it comes to the consumer. How do you face that?
Yeah. So at the moment we don't see any issues there yet, but I get what you're saying, and I think indeed like transparency is just super important. So explaining to the consumer what we're doing and why we're doing it, but also saying that it's not necessarily perfect yet and that it can always be improved, and explaining what our revenue model is. I think that kind of things are very very important, and just be open about it. I think that's needed nowadays, and people will appreciate that as well.
Yeah. One of the biggest trends as well, I think, for the consumer angle, especially in the Netherlands. Look at the front, I think.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Yeah, but precisely the people, a lot of times the initiatives that tend to be, in the sense, helpful are a lot of times the ones that are more scrutinized by the consumer. It's like, oh, yeah, why? Like, who is behind this? Like, who is
Because
trying to tell me what to eat?
Yeah, that's with the Nutri-Score the same, right? And
and actually, Nutri-Score had a lot of problems because there were big companies supporting Nutri-Score, and it was supposed that these big companies would have like a better treatment. It was supposed that was like the propaganda, but that's precisely what the strategy from many other big companies was like, okay, we're not going to adapt to Nutri-Score. What we're going to do is just make Nutri-Score sound like something not to trust. And that was like a problem for Nutri-Score, in my opinion. They're still there, still.
Yeah, yeah, and it depends a bit on the country, but in the Netherlands, the government is behind it. So you are referring, I think, a bit to the more skeptical consumers who then think like, okay, this is only made because people want to earn money with it or something.
Yes, I mean, in the end, there will be a sector of the consumers that they will see as this. Okay, this is a very good tool in order to incentivize the consume of certain products, no, and or for certain, no, like I am putting the conspiranoic hat here, okay, but this is like where I can be a challenge for you, and what I was asking, like, okay, what if then they say, yeah, of course, if you go to Araheim, you will get better scores on the things than if you go to Jumbo. And maybe it's an actual truth that that's the case. But for some people, they will do, I don't know, maybe this is because they get on better with the CEO of Araheim and they get on better with the CEO of Jumbo.
Yeah.
And that is the problem of many transparent companies is that some people is so skeptical that they will not ever believe on transparency.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good point, and I think for us it's just super important that we explain as good as possible what we're doing and why we're doing it, and hope that gets enough visibility to the people who needs to see it.
Before going to an end, I wanted to go back to the beginning. You said you started in a company that was working with privacy. Now you're building a startup in the health, retail, not retail because it's not you, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, health, food.
Art, yeah. How have been both experiences different, and where did you have seen like the challenges of one or the benefits of the other?
Oh yeah, it's very different. So there are very different topics. First of all, I think the topic I'm working on now, health and food, is much more where my passion is. So in that sense, it's a lot easier and it flows a lot more. But the privacy and data company was a B2B company, so also very different than B2B and a very different product. So in that sense, also a lot easier because you just needed a few clients and then you would get proper income. And in our case, we need a lot of consumers who also want to convert to premium to get some income. And we're not there yet, but luckily we are growing quickly. But it's completely different. But I think that's nice. And in the end, I think not any company is the same, and you can be an entrepreneur and then start a company after, but it's always going to be different, and you will only learn more things, and I think that's great.
You touch an important thing that we didn't cover, I believe, and is that for you it's very important the conversion. You said it's a free, no plus premium model because it's free to scan, then it's premium the rest. How do you incentivize that conversion?
Yeah. So currently we are talking to people in a way and talking to the people who actually really want to support our mission. So the button to premium actually says support our mission, because we believe at the moment there's a big group of people who want to support us. But then there's also, of course, a group who is really looking for the recipes and the additional filters, but that's something that we really want to optimize as well in the coming period. But there again, we can focus on we can actually focus on more niche groups. So, for example, people who have to reduce their salt intake, for example. We can go to organizations who are busy with that and then kind of promote our salt-free filter. And for people who have diabetes, for example, there will be a specific filter in there. So there we can actually really talk directly to the specific groups, and then there's really kind of a need to have instead of a nice to have for that groups.
Yeah, that's a very nice how do you say it, focus, and it's really needed as well. Good, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that they have like these specific groups with understanding more what they eat. How many monthly active users do you have currently?
Yeah, so we just launched on Android. So I think at the moment it's around 7,000 users.
Wow, and that's only the Netherlands and stuff. Nice. And yeah. really good. And then just in Android, so it's like, you need to then also
Android
the other
and
platform. Cool.
iOS. It's Android and iOS.
Yeah,
Okay,
no.
okay.
Yeah,
But but I think the numbers look really good. There's really an interest, and now it's like for us important to get more and more visibility. And I believe there's a lot more potential, but it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, super good. And there's a tradition to this ending where we actually give the guest the opportunity to ask a question to us. So Anke, what is your question to us?
So what is your guilty pleasure in terms of ultra processed foods?
All of them. I don't know.
It's like really a sometimes when I was young was also a guilty pleasure, and yeah, I think 2 months ago I bought it. Yeah, no, I don't want to know it. And I'm pretty sure it's super bad. But like 3 months ago, I tried it after like I think 6-7 years or so because it was like something when high school you didn't have so much money and you wanted to grab the quick.
I'm gonna say Kit Kat.
Kit Kat.
My like the when are behind to go and you're like in it's just like I always
They
go
have
to
no
the Kit
extra
Kat.
large like
Yeah, there's like this. No, I got to the traditional one, to the typical one. Yeah, that is mainly. Now I'm curious. I'm going to put it to the filter.
And you, Anke, what is your guilty pleasure?
I didn't really think about that you were going to ask it back.
Well, then you have to prepare for the next one.
No, my guilty pleasure, I think, is a very nice glass of wine. But that's actually something that we don't scan because we don't scan alcohol. Like it's not.
I want to keep it drinking. Don't.
Is wine ultra processed in that sense? I thought it was just processed. No, like.
Yeah.
It depends on the wine, I think. Yeah, but yeah, it's not necessarily healthy, so it's also.
Well, the Mediterranean diet, in theory, has a glass of wine per day, or
especially French.
I think it's better than a Kit Kat.
Yeah, well, and it's also about the amount, right? My favorite food is I like a lot of things. I think so. Lately, I eat a lot of Thai food. I really like spicy
Thai
food. Yeah.
Pad Thai or what?
The curries. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this was actually yeah. What kind of curry?
No, I definitely like curries, and actually for that the scanning app is really nice as well because you have like this kind of ready curries that you can use to make your vegetables and tofu or chicken, whatever you want to put in there, nice. But a lot of them are super ultra processed with a lot of kind of crap in it, but they're also really nice alternatives. So I found it out with the app. So that's an example of a product you really should scan, and you can easily find better alternatives.
Anke, that was also the last question of this. I want to thank you. I think what you do is great. It helps really for consumers to take the step to understand better what they eat. For even particular groups of consumers where they have any problems with, the food, sodium content or diabetes, what you just explained. I think it's really nice that this app can actually help them in an easier way. So thanks for that. Also for the clarity. I'm very curious, how the future is gonna look like. Also for your app, the competitor as well. So yeah, thanks a lot, Anke, for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me and for the nice chat.